Hello everyone and welcome back to another AFK journey video. In this video I'm going to be showing you the teams you can try to run to get a top score and how we got rank 1 of our district with 134 billion. But first we're going to be looking at the AURORA squad charm priority tier list made by Daragon. So once again, big thank you and credit to him for putting this together. Okay guys, so in the S tier we have 3 heroes which you probably would have predicted: Merrily, Harak, and Sonja. The optimal charm for Harak is Butcher Charms because the top scorers are using that. However, if you don't have them and you have balance charms, you can run that. You can still get a pretty good score. But if you want to fully like min-max everything, Butcher Charms are the way to go for Harak for Ravaged Realm. Merrily with the overloaded charms are going to be her best option. Again, she can work on the acute charms. That's what I'm actually running on this account right now because I don't have enough to craft her overloaded charms. But overloaded are the overall best. And then arcane charms for Sonja. All 3 of these heroes should be a priority for you to refine the charms of, but most importantly, Harak and Merrily because they deal the most damage. Moving on to the A tier, we have Sinbad with the Gale charms. Sinbad you should only consider if you have a Mythic Plus or above. Otherwise, there's not going to be a huge value for you running him in your AURORA squad team. But if you do have him there, then you should get him the Gale charms. Those are the optimal. For Cassidy, acute charms are going to increase their damage the most. However, a second best option would maybe be Mystic charms. And it is a priority for you to enhance Cassidy's charms and Sinbad's charms. It depends what team you're running. There are some teams which are not using Harak where Cassidy is your major carry. And then you would want to refine Cassidy's charms, and it would be a really top priority for your account. And then you have the sorcery charms onto Rowan. You could give him sorcery charms. Basically anything to give him ultimate power is the way to go because that is going to increase the energy generation he provides for your allies. In the B tier we have Corrin. Interestingly, on 2 different charm options. The first one is like the healing charm, and that is going to boost his shield that he will provide to his allies by giving him the healing stat. It also gives him the haste buff, which will allow him to cast his skill with the shield more frequently, basically to help keep your team alive for longer. Insight charms are a great option as well. That increases his skill power, which increases the effectiveness of his shield, as well as increases his damage as well. Vala, Reaper charms are doing the best for people. If you're going to run Vala, try to get the Reaper charms, but you can give her any charm that gives her attack percent basically. And then Merrily, Miriel, acute charms if you're going to be running her, but you don't have to run her. There are a lot of other heroes you can be running instead. Freastro, sorcery charms, but you should already have that for Dream Realm. And he isn't a big priority here because of the fact that he doesn't deal that much damage. You can just give him any mythic charm set. They don't even have to complete the set effect. He's going to be great. Now, Hugin is considered best on the blast charms. However, he does well on the mystic charms as well. And actually in the overall top team right now, Hugin is not even being used. Instead, you're going for triple damage. You like Cassidy, Vala, and Sinbad, and no room for Hugin basically in the team. So Hugin is actually not a top tier option in any of the teams anymore. But yeah, so he's just not a big priority. Lucius is important because if you're going for the more budget free-to-play team or basically no Harak team even, then Lucius can be a good option for your team number 2, and you should try to get him the wizard charms that will increase his healing or basically his shielding, because healing stat will increase the effectiveness of the shields and heals provided by that hero, and then also the ultimate power from the wizard charms will boost the shielding that he provides. And then at the bottom D is Tamisa with the blast charms. Tamisa can also be used in team number 2 if you're limited on options, and she's not that bad there. But Lucius will be better than her because Lucius kind of protects your team, and that is more important for most people. And Faye is not really used anymore, but you can go for these leaf charms. I think that gives, can't remember what that gave. Yeah, I'm not sure, but either way, some form of boosting her healing, I think. Okay, so that is basically the priority for the AURORA squad covered. Let's go ahead and jump into the teams. So as for the teams, I'm going to show you our top performing team first of all in the formation. Now, keep in mind, you will need to run this. I don't know how many times. It took me like 3 or 4 runs, and then I got a big score boost. I was getting like 128 billion over and over again, and I was like, is that actually my limit? And then one of them got 134 billion. And we'll show you the replay of this run basically to see what went right. But this is the team formation. Main Freastro in front of the Harak, and Illusion off in the upper left corner with the frontline spell. Sinbad in the middle, Vala on the other buff tile, and in terms of damage, Vala does deal the second most amount of damage. In team number 2, it is the standard optimal team number 2 if you have these heroes built. Merrily on the resonating buff tile, Corrin on the other one, and then Sonja in the middle. She will provide like the defensive buffs to allow your team to survive, and also the attack buffs to increase your damage output. And we have her on the acute charms, but the overloaded charms are better for the Merrily, and we have the other heroes on pretty much they're considered optimal charms. Yeah, all of them on their optimal charms. Okay, before we actually take a look at this replay, I want to show you the alternate version of this team, because here it is. There is an alternate formation which people are running, which is also competing for the top score. So it's up to you which one you want to try. Either way, you're going to have to do multiple runs to get the good RNG. Main Fresser in front of Harak again, Illusion in front of Vala, and that is team number 1. Team number 2 is exactly identical. And now we're going to take a look at the replay of the overall top team and what happened to make it go so crazy. It will really come down to the team number 1. Like, when you get good fight RNG for team number 1, you're going to get your top overall record. Cassidy is going to be devoured first. Keep in mind the Harak hotfix is only applicable for Dream Realm. It is not having any effect in Ravaged Realm, and so you're still going to be devouring based on the lowest health ratio of your allies. Great, so Vala was able to survive a long time in this fight. Cassidy was devoured, followed by Fresser Illusion, which is great. But yeah, Harak with the Butcher Charms. So I don't know, like for example, I feel like to get that overall top perfect RNG score, you're going to want Butcher Charms on Harak. But to get an overall decent score, you can probably do it with Balance Charms as well. But that is why in the tier list it does have the Butcher Charm. So Vala does get devoured towards the end, but Fresser is still surviving, and even the Illusion is devoured before the Fresser. So basically perfect devour order, and look at that. 71.4 billion on team number 1. That is absolutely crazy. There's no other squad that can get even close to this damage. I guess you can get close. You can get 67, 68 billion on some teams, but 71 point whatever it was, that is a huge score. And then team number 2 also is going to be getting a high score, like at least 60 billion, which is pretty amazing as well. But don't worry, if you don't have Harak, there are some great team options out there. And even if you only have like one copy of Sonja, there are some great team options out there, which I'm going to show you guys. But even with the one copy of Sonja team, you still want to prioritize her charms, because the arcane charms, they don't have to be arcane, they could be insight. But you want the skill power, because that's going to boost the buff that she will provide to your allies. And that's why her charms are like the top priority, which is in the S tier for those. But everyone should have Merrily. Everyone should get overloaded charms onto Merrily. Everyone should get some form of skill power charms onto Sonja if you have her, even at one copy. And then you want to try to get your Cassidy up to the acute charms. I think the major problem is if you don't have Cassidy built and you don't have Harak built, then your options kind of become more limited. Because if you don't have Harak, then your major carry will become Cassidy in team number 1. And so if you don't have Cassidy either, then it can become problematic. But we're going to talk about like different team options you can try. Okay, so those were the 2 top performing team formations. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the other teams you can try. This one got 118 billion. Now, if you're not running Harak, then you're going to go for frontlines, or you're not going to go for frontline spell, you're going to go for the Tide Call spell instead. That will be more optimal for you. Generally, and because you're going to be running Rowan in these teams, you're going to be spamming your ultimates and keep proccing the Tide Call spell active effect, and that is going to increase the damage that the boss will be receiving and also reduce the attack of the boss. So as you can see here, this is going to be the team formation if you have a built Sonja. This is not the one copy Sonja. This is the built Sonja, and this will not rely as heavily as Cassidy as like being built up, but still, Cassidy is dealing a lot of damage. And so, for example, if your Cassidy is not Mythic Plus yet, and you try this team and Cassidy is just not dealing that much, you can replace Cassidy with another damage dealer, for example, Muriel, Vala, Sinbad, basically whichever light bearer hero you have. But if you have Sonja built, then you should run Fresser in front of, Main in front of Sonja, Illusion in front of Rowan, and then you have your Corrin, which you should have built as well on the side, and then Cassidy if you have her built, Muriel if you have her built, Vala, Sinbad, whatever you want. If you have them built, you can run them here. And for team number 2, now because of the fact that we have moved Sonja off of, and even Korn off of team number 2, you have to have a different team number 2. And now it is all about maxing out Marilee's damage. You have Lucius to protect with the shielding and like to wall, like basically tank the front, and then you have Marilee to deal as much damage as possible with the resonating spell. And now in this team, you can use Temesia instead of Lucius, and that can work. It might even do better for you. So basically, now in this more like budget team formation, you will have one tank in the front, either Lucius or Temesia, and then you will have 2 damages on the buff tiles, mainly your Marilee, and then your other one can be Vala, it can be Sinbad, it can be Muriel, it can be whichever hero you have left over and you have decently built. But use Cassidy. If you're running Cassidy, you have to run in team number 1 because she'll get the most value here, because then her running tide is going to empower the normal attacks of all of your allies. If you have 5 allies or 6, including herself, that is better than just having 3 allies over here, or 3 total heroes. Okay, so that is a great team formation that you can run. It got 118 billion. And now I'm going to show you the alternate. Now this is the version if you have 1 copy of Sonja. Then rather than having Sonja as your prime carrier, you use her as only a buffer. Again, the main thruster is going to be in front of the Sonja, so she can cast her ultimate early. But now you want to give her the skill power charms like Insight or Arcane, and then you just have your Corrin and Cassidy on the buff tiles dealing as much damage as possible, and Sonja just like ramping them up. And again, Cassidy is really stealing the show. She is the major contributor to damage, and getting those acute charms onto her is going to be a big priority, and also refining them. This is the team you want to run if you have 1 copy or like not even a Mythic plus Sonja basically. Otherwise you can run the other team. And now here we have the same team number 2, and we talked about the different replacement options. If you don't have, for example, Sinbad built, no problem, replace him for Vala or Muriel or anything like that. Okay, now moving on to some other team options. Here we said, yeah, for example, you don't have Sinbad, you replace it for Vala. Your score is going to be lower because Sinbad provides useful debuffs, but only 2 billion lower, which is not bad. And then we have this other version, for example, if you need to run Muriel, and you don't have Vala built, you don't have Sinbad built, you can run this team. This is with 1 copy Sonja type team, and then Muriel, for example, and then, but Cassidy is still being used. This is kind of the thing. Cassidy is really important, but if you don't have her, you can replace her for Sinbad, you can replace and just have Sonja on the buff tile, you can replace her for Vala if need be, but Cassidy is going to be important. You can give it a try, even if your Cassidy is not fully like, totally maxed out. You can try it and see what type of score you get. But those are basically the teams you want to try. If you're running Harak, frontline spell on team number 1. If you're not running Harak, tide call spell and you run Rowan. And on the team number 2, you always run resonating spell with Marilee on the resonating tile, no matter what team you're running. So that is basically the recap of it all. And you saw the charm priority, so try to focus on those charms in that order, and try to refine the charms which are in gold boxes. But thanks for watching, guys. That is going to be it for this video. I hope it was helpful, and I hope you enjoyed it, and good luck getting a top score. And I'll hopefully see you guys in the next video. And until then, everyone, peace out for now, and thank you for watching.